Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. This article comes to you guys from AT&T News. I'll leave a link to it in the description so you guys could check it out. So for those of you who have been testing the networks, who are wireless enthusiasts, who have been following the channel, this should be no surprise to you about this AT&T press release that dropped this morning. I've made the video on the FCC release where they let the FCC know ahead of time that they were going to add this very quickly in a matter of weeks. They were going to increase the 3.45 spectrum holdings that they acquired from EchoStar. They were going to do that on the existing network, around 23,000 sites. And that's what they're now announcing publicly. AT&T boosts 5G capacity nationwide with new spectrum, giving customers a stronger, faster connection. Now, what I want to add to that, for the average consumer, if you're joining this video, you might ask, well, what is that going to do for me? How is that going to help me? And could this in the future increase my bill as well? Because this costs AT&T a lot of money. So AT&T, for those of you who are interested, AT&T is looking to offer a network at the lowest cost per bit. And that means they want to load up on a lot of spectrum. But what it still comes down to, in my opinion, and I want to be very honest on this, is customer experience. It doesn't matter how much capacity that you can offer, how much spectrum that you can buy, if the customer experience is not good and it's just not there, then you're still going to lose that particular customer. Now, that's not for all areas, of course, but I want to paint a scenario here. If you're in a certain area, let's just say you're at a restaurant having dinner, and Verizon and T-Mobile have a site closer than AT&T, but AT&T just loaded up on a bunch of spectrum that they deployed on a site that's closest, but it's still further away. You're gonna have the better customer experience on the Verizon and T-Mobile network because they have a site closer. The AT&T site could be doing 1.5 gigs, but it's 2.5 miles away. So you're indoors enjoying dinner and the AT&T site is further away and it's having a harder time penetrating the building. You're in an area that's RSRP 118, you're on one bar, and it's just not a great experience, customer experience. So oftentimes, a lot of people have messaged me saying, oftentimes AT&T would be better off just adding densification versus spending billions of dollars on spectrum. And yet, here we are again. They just spent $23 billion on the 3.45 spectrum, and I still have people messaging me saying they would have been better off just adding more densification in their given areas. That says a lot. That tells me AT&T's planning is just not the greatest and the best. T-Mobile's new CEO said it recently. We look at, is it better to densify at this given time, or is it better to buy the spectrum that's available? That's how they look at it. And in a lot of cases, it's better to densify. And it's cheaper in some cases to densify. You mean to tell me AT&T couldn't have densified in a meaningful way for a fraction of the cost of what they paid for the spectrum from EchoStar? There's no way. They could have said, hey, we're going to use $5 billion and we could densify this amount of more small cells. And it would have been cheaper. So was it still a good buy? Yes. In terms of if we're looking at it competitively and what the others have in spectrum assets, is it still something that they can deploy very quickly and something that they're already in process of deploying? Yes, they are actively deploying the DoD panels. We get that. We understand that. And once it's deployed, it's just a matter of a software update. We understand. But you still spend $23 billion, and I feel they overspent. And I think a lot of you will agree, and I think there might be some that can justify the spend, but they still overspent. So, for an example, my market, I think AT&T would have been better off just adding 20 new towers versus adding the 40 additional megahertz from the EchoStar. They would have been better off if they would have added 20 more towers for densification purposes. I truly believe they would have been better off from a customer experience standpoint. And I'm sure a lot of you will agree. There's markets like Houston that need the further densification. There's markets like New York, the tri-state area, that need further densification, from what I've been told. Those markets would be better off with an investment towards straight densification versus the additional asset in spectrum. Yes, it will increase the speed from the existing sites, and AT&T will have additional opportunities to load up certain business customers and business cases, even citing an increase of 55% of speed on internet air, 80% for mobile customers, up to 55% for internet air customers. So you best believe they're going to continue to sell internet air more aggressively. They're going to sell the mobile use case to business customers, and they're going to try to load up consumers. They're going to have to do that a bit differently in 2026, but now they can load up because they have a ton of capacity. That's percentages of increases on top of the increase of the spectrum that they just added. So there was an increase when they just had the regular C-band DoD, the 8040. Now they're adding in an additional spectrum that's going to give them, that's giving them additional increase. So yeah, so I have to look at it objectively, but AT&T, I feel, needs a better balanced approach. I really truly believe that. And of course, AT&T is not done buying. They're going to buy more, and that will be looked at again once they do, and we'll analyze that on the channel, and we'll break that down. But they need to just start densifying. I think there needs to be somebody at AT&T that makes the call and say, hey, we're done buying spectrum for now. We need to densify these markets because we have higher frequency spectrum coming. We have 4.9 that we want to add in, and it's going to be a roller coaster ride if we don't densify. They have areas here by me where site spacing is still a problem. There's site spacing on Alameda, 2 to 3 miles, 2 to 3 mile site spacing, if not more, closer to the border highway. There's no AT&T sites at all along the border highway. Verizon and T-Mobile, there's like 4 or 5 sites. AT&T, 0. They're covering it from the outside in, so to speak. They're covering the border highway from sites that are like 3 miles away facing the border highway. That's not going to cut it from a customer experience perspective. Those sites are going to get faster because of that extra spectrum. But again, Verizon and T-Mobile have sites closer, so that's the better customer experience. So that's what I want to point out. Again, in this article, this is what AT&T is citing, just briefly. AT&T has deployed mid-band spectrum we agreed to acquire from EchoStar, boosting 5G download speeds by up to 80% coast to coast. I wouldn't necessarily say coast to coast because they've only deployed it on 23,000 sites. This deployment improved a capital efficiency long-term growth by accelerating the company's ability to add converged subscribers with both 5G and home internet. Again, improved capital efficient long-term growth. Again, that's them pretty much saying we can now offer this additional capacity without having to add density. So we understand that. The spectrum integration strengthens AT&T best overall wireless network. Both mobility and AT&T Internet Air customers will enjoy enhanced experiences. So there you have 23,000 cell sites. You guys can see that there across 5,300 cities. So again, it's interesting. I think AT&T needs a better balanced approach. They need to figure out They really need to figure out this densification. They really do. They need it. They need it more so than Verizon and T-Mobile today. And as the frequencies get higher and higher, as we start talking 4.9, as we start talking 6 gigahertz, 7 gigahertz, AT&T will need more densification for sure. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.